The taut muscles in Clara's shoulders tightened as she efficiently clamped the IV line with one hand, her other brushing against the thin, warm fabric of Mr. Thompson's hospital gown. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting an unwelcoming glow across the room. The scent of antiseptic hung heavily in the air, juxtaposed sharply against the comforting aroma of homemade pies Clara imagined baking back in her tiny, one-bedroom apartment that echoed with silence after long shifts. As a nurse in the cardiac ward of St. Jude's Hospital, Clara was accustomed to the ebb and flow of life, the laughter of newborns usually accompanied by the grieving goodbye of an elderly soul. Yet today was different. Instead of the rigid efficiency typically demanded, Clara's heart ached for the fragile figure before her, a wiry elderly man with thinning, wispy hair, staring absently through the window at the rain-soaked world outside. His family had come and gone, leaving behind only the sterile ambience of machines beeping softly, a testament to his fading vitality. Clara had her own struggles, endless bills piled high like the mountains that cast shadows over her dreams. If only the sun could shine brightly enough to illuminate the path to her aspirations. Despite the mounting student loans and rent payments that scrapped her paycheck down to mere cents, she bore the weight of her profession with dignity and grace. It was the connection she felt with her patients that kept her going, stitching together the fabric of her otherwise frayed life. "Mr. Thompson," she said gently, pulling the curtain around him to cultivate a space out of the hospital's chaos. "It's going to be just us for a while. Is there anything you'd like to talk about?" His eyes, once lively, were now dulled by the disbelief of being left behind. He glanced towards the window again, where drizzles tapped softly against the glass, an uninviting reminder of the world shining brightly outside his sterile prison. Clara keenly felt his loneliness. She remembered the ache of solitude that gnawed at her late at night, when she sat at her kitchen table, poring over bills instead of inviting friends to a welcome feast. This empathy, woven in her every interaction, was a defining trait, honed from years of seeing people at their most vulnerable. Today, though, it shaped her need to reach out, to bridge the gap left by an absent family. With a soft smile, she folded herself into the chair beside his bed. "How about we share some stories, you and I? I'd love to hear about your favorite travel memories." For a moment, silence reigned. The room seemed to still, constricting the air until Clara's heartbeat echoed louder than the intermittent beeps of machinery. Finally, Mr. Thompson murmured, "Hawaii. The sun, the waves. I could forget any troubles there." As he began to share tales of vibrant sunsets and the rich, salty air, Clara found herself leaning in, absorbed by the color he painted with his words. The despair in his expression faded, replaced by the warmth of nostalgia. For a heartbeat, they drifted far away from their stark surroundings, a lonely elderly man and a struggling nurse, bound together under shared stories of joy and wistfulness. Despite the impending clock ticking towards the end of her shift, Clara's heart urged her to linger just a little longer. She placed a hand gently on his arm, her pulse syncing in harmony with the cadence of his words. "That's beautiful, Mr. Thompson. It sounds like the kind of place where the worries of the world drift away." Their laughter collided and filled the sterile space with life as they reminisced. But behind Clara's smile lingered the weight of her own austerity, the looming rent and a dwindling grocery budget. The thought flitted through her mind like a bird caught in a bitter storm. Still, today wasn't about her troubles, it was about Mr. Thompson's fading spirit finding light, even just for a moment. As she assisted him with his evening routine, tucking him in with a fresh blanket and adjusting the pillows, she noticed a single live flower perched on his bedside table. It was a modest gesture, a wilting sunflower from the days of better health, yet it echoed a buried yearning for connection. "I'm sure you miss them," she said, her voice gentle, trying to bridge his loneliness with authenticity. "Want me to help you write a note for your family?" His eyes glistened, and even before he spoke, Clara felt a warmth envelop the room, one that could transform not only them but also the world beyond their little bubble. "Would you?" he rasped, a hint of vulnerability threading through his voice. Clara nodded, her heart swelling with purpose. As she fetched a piece of paper and a pen, she felt a deeper twinge of resolve bathed in light. In this shared moment, she wouldn't let Mr. Thompson or herself feel alone. Together they would reach his family, bridging the sentiments of connection that were too easily lost within hospital walls. As she scribbled down his words, their bond blossomed under the heavy weight of kindness. The act was greater than just pen and paper. It echoed a resounding truth. Even amidst the trials of life, love and gratitude could reach farther than any struggle. In that small, care-filled act, Clara realized that kindness held the power to transform, a truth that resonated deeply as the rain pattered quietly against the window, a soft lullaby that whispered promises of brighter days ahead. As Clara finished writing Mr. Thompson's message, she noticed a subtle but unmistakable shift in him. The corners of his mouth began to lift, and his eyes sparkled with a renewed sense of purpose. "Thank you, dear Clara," he said softly, tracing the flower's stem with a finger as though he could feel the sun's warmth on his skin. "You're a kind soul. If only my grandchildren could see how wonderful you are." "I'm just doing what any nurse would do," Clara replied, brushing off his compliment. But deep down she could feel her heart swell, not just from his praise but from the impact of their connection. Each interaction would ripple outwards, a reminder that their humanity could breach every boundary. Elated by their shared moment, Clara decided to return to his room the following day with a token homemade cookies she often baked with her daughter, Lucy, on rainy Sundays. Baking was their cherished ritual, a small piece of warmth they wrapped around themselves when life felt cold. That morning, Clara hurriedly mixed batter while Lucy danced around the kitchen, a hurricane of energy and giggles. "Can we make them in fun shapes, Mommy?" her daughter asked, twirling with glee. "Of course." "A heart shape for Mr. Thompson," Clara replied, a smile tugging at her lips. Lucy plopped excitedly onto a stool, her small hands helping to roll the dough, rattling off stories about unicorns while Clara watched with adoring eyes. "Maybe he'll feel better after some love from the cookies," Lucy added, her earnestness eliciting a chuckle from Clara. As they placed the cookies onto the baking tray, Clara felt a warmth spread through her. It was more than the flour lingering in the air, it was the insistent belief that small acts of kindness could, in fact, alter the course of lives, her own included. And perhaps she was also sowing the seeds of empathy in her daughter, who would carry this ethos into the world one day. Later, with the cookies encased in a delicate tin, Clara set off for the hospital. The fluorescent lights guided her familiar path, but this time her heart was buoyed by the prospect of sharing a piece of her home with Mr. Thompson. Entering room 214, she smiled at the elderly gentleman, who looked almost radiant, perched on the edge of his bed as if awaiting a visitor. The flower remained a touchstone, drawing attention to the kindness blooming within the room. "Clara," he exclaimed, his eyes lighting up like stars. "I'm glad you're here. Is that something sweet?" "Homemade cookies. They're shaped like hearts. Just for you," Clara replied, presenting the tin with a flourish. Mr. Thompson's delight spread like a warm wave. "You're making my stay here remarkable. I'll buy you all the ice cream your heart desires once I'm out of here," he laughed, a sound that resonated through her. Weeks passed, and Clara returned daily, each visit fragrant with the aroma of fresh cookies and heartfelt stories. With each shared moment, not only did Clara's spirit mend a little, but the camaraderie between Mr. Thompson and herself blossomed into a deep friendship. One afternoon she found him surrounded by stacks of cards. "Look at these, Clara. I wrote them to my family," he beamed, pride shining bright in his glassy eyes. "Each card carries a little love from my heart." Before she knew it, Clara was helping him address and deliver them not only to his immediate family but also to friends, former co-workers, and even the pizza delivery man who always brought a little extra to the door while he was still home. The waves of kindness washed everywhere, far beyond anything Clara could have envisioned. Then came an unexpected moment during one of her encounters. Mr. Thompson mentioned his late wife, Eleanor, who had once been a talented seamstress, known for her beautiful quilts that adorned many homes. The joy in his voice broke Clara's heart, but also sparked an idea. "Have you ever thought about sharing her legacy?" Clara asked, a smile creeping up her lips. "Maybe you could host quilting classes or sell some of her beautiful designs." I haven't thought about that in years," he murmured, nodding slowly, the gears turning in his mind. "I'd love to if only I could. But I don't think there's a market for it anymore." "Let's host a small gathering, Mr. Thompson. We will invite everyone from this ward, any of my fellow nurses, your friends. Maybe we can create a community event to showcase Eleanor's quilt," Clara suggested, fire igniting behind her words. Mr. Thompson's expression turned contemplative, and as those words settled around them, Clara felt an electric thrill, recognizing the rightness of her suggestion. Over the next few weeks, they meticulously planned the event, crafting flyers, reaching out to community members, and working together as if time was an infinite thread weaving into something beautiful. Clara bounced ideas off her coworkers, and they all began to rally around the two, revealing a deeper connection to the hospital and the healing power of creativity. As the day of the gathering approached, Clara's heart raced with anticipation. They had secured a cozy corner of the hospital's main atrium, brightly lit, with sunlight streaming through large windows. The scent of freshly baked goods wafted through the air, thanks to Clara's daughter Lucy, who was excitedly helping with the baking. The day of the event arrived like a great sunrise, vibrant and promising. Patients and their families gathered, their laughter mingling with the clinking of glasses as Clara showcased Eleanor's stunning quilts and Mr. Thompson's captivating stories. It felt as though, for a moment, they transcended the harsh reality of the hospital, becoming participants in something radiant. And there, amid the joy and laughter, came an unexpected guest: Sylvia, the owner of a local artisan shop renowned for showcasing community talent. As she admired the quilts, her eyes widened with inspiration. "These are remarkable. I must have them in my store," she exclaimed, turning towards Mr. Thompson with palpable enthusiasm. "We could set up a pop-up event that could draw quite the crowd." Minutes turned into hours, and Clara's heart swelled as plans began to blossom: an opportunity for Mr. Thompson to reignite the spirit of Eleanor's legacy while providing him with a source of income beyond what he'd dreamed possible. And when Sylvia handed Mr. Thompson her business card, Clara's heart danced a joyous rhythm. She saw hope in enhanced connections, a newfound sense of self-worth in Mr. Thompson, and the potential for transformation reaching far beyond the walls of their hospital. Once the event was over, Clara and Mr. Thompson sat tired but elated on one of the atrium's benches, exhaustion washing over them in cozy waves. They shared a laugh, recalling how the elderly man had jokingly misread his own flyers, promoting the art show as if he were offering free pizza instead of quilts. Their laughter was warm, a comfort in itself, rippling outwards through the very fabric of their respective lives. "Clara," Mr. Thompson said, gazing into the distance, "I honestly didn't know how much kindness could change things. I can already feel the weight lifting from my shoulders." He turned to her, his voice breaking slightly. "You've given me purpose when I thought I'd lost it completely." Clara smiled, but her heart tugged at the weight of her own struggle. "You have no idea how you've touched my life too, Mr. Thompson. With everything going on, sometimes I forget to breathe." She hesitated for a moment, pulling her gaze to the ground, the financial worries creeping back into her mind. Bills just keep piling high, and every day feels like running a marathon with no finish line. But it was then Mr. Thompson noticed her failing light. "Do you believe in the ripple effect of kindness, Clara?" he asked, propping himself up slightly, all seriousness. She nodded. "Of course. But it sometimes feels like kindness is the only currency I have left." "Well, isn't that just as valuable?" He smiled softly. "You might be surprised how it returns to you in surprising ways. Just look at what we've created here together." As Clara sat there, the warmth of their shared camaraderie enveloped her like a comforting quilt. She found herself buoyed by Mr. Thompson's spirit. Their friendship had transformed them both into agents of change. Then, a few days later, a small envelope landed in her mailbox at home. Uncertain, Clara opened it, her brow knit as she recognized the return address of Mr. Thompson's family. Inside were not just simple heartfelt words of gratitude, but also a check, one that far exceeded her expectations. Clara's breath caught in her throat as she read, "Thank you from the bottom of our hearts for your kindness to our father. We're donating this sum to you in hopes that it eases some of your burdens." Tears brimming in her eyes, she let the paper flutter softly to her lap. In that moment, she realized the power of the ripples they ignited together. Kindness given freely often comes back in strange, extraordinary ways. It lit a flickering hope inside her, a gentle reminder that giving could indeed create pathways for others to flourish and return kindness tenfold. Lucy dashed into the room, a whirlwind of excitement. "Mommy, can we bake more cookies for Mr. Thompson? He needs to know how much we care." Clara scooped her daughter into her arms, feeling the laughter bubble from deep within as emotions locked with gratitude began to flow. "Yes, my love, let's do just that," she whispered, a smile breaking over her face. With cookies in hand and beautiful quilts on display for the world to see, Clara understood something profound. Kindness does not merely create warmth, it holds the power to usher in change, an evolving wave from one heart to another, leading them into financial healing born from love, understanding, and connection. In the months ahead, both Clara and Mr. Thompson would continue to flourish, bound by stories, laughter, endless hearts in the form of baked cookies, and once lost hopes rekindled in each other's hearts. Their journey had only just begun, layered with the delightful tapestry of kindness that intertwines their lives forever. The sun's rays danced through the windows of Clara's cozy kitchen, illuminating the vibrant colors of the new quilts she'd hung up for a community showcase. It had been several weeks since Mr. Thompson's quilting event, and those precious connections they had forged continued to fill her days with warmth and purpose. Each week, Clara and Lucy would gather at Mr. Thompson's room after their shifts and bake cookies to share during the visits, adding joyful spirit to the sterile hospital environment. And each week, they would delight in Mr. Thompson's stories of Eleanor, the tales of her laughter, how she'd brighten even the gloomiest days with her craft, and how she'd spend hours knitting and sewing with friends at community gatherings. Clara often marveled at how his reminiscing seeped into her own heart, rekindling memories of her childhood and the comforts of familiar love. One crisp Saturday morning, after a particularly long week of shifts at the hospital, Clara woke with the familiar flutter of excitement in her heart. Today marked a milestone. The community would officially unveil a display of Eleanor's quilts at the local artisan shop, where they would be available for sale. Mr. Thompson had meticulously attended to every detail, rallying support not just from his family but from the whole neighborhood, transforming their shared vision into a beautiful tapestry of love and legacy. "Mommy, are we going to see Mr. Thompson today?" Lucy chirped, her hair a frizzy halo of excitement as she bounced on her toes. "Yes, sweet pea. We're going to be there early to help with the decorations. Remember, we're there to celebrate Mr. Thompson and Eleanor today," Clara replied, filled with anticipation that made the heart swell. As they made their way to the shop, Clara felt a renewed sense of purpose flowing through her. The journey through the vibrant streets, lined with fall colors, reminded her of how life continuously evolved even amidst challenges. The artisan shop bustled with life upon their arrival. Clara instantly spotted Mr. Thompson, who was dressed up in a crisp blue button-up shirt, a smile illuminating his features as he spoke with his daughter Claire. The spirit of joy was palpable, wrapping around them as families, friends, and even faces that Clara recognized from the hospital began to gather. Aunt Clara, a call rang. She turned to see a familiar face, Sylvia, the owner of the artisan shop, a woman as vibrant as the crafts displayed in her store. "Thank you for believing in this event," Sylvia, Clara said, glancing around at the quilts lining the walls. Each one told a story of love and warmth, inviting laughter and nostalgia to fill the air. "Of course. This is the most heartwarming collection we've ever showcased," Sylvia replied warmly, squeezing Clara's shoulder. "I believe this community needed something like this to remind them that kindness nurtures connection." As each attendee began to wander through the aisles of quilts, Clara felt a burst of pride swell within her. Mr. Thompson approached, adorned in his signature twinkle once more. "Clara, look. So many people are here to see Eleanor's legacy," he said, his gaze sweeping across the crowd that had come to pay homage to a woman who had long left this earth, yet still inspired love in every stitch. "Understanding that kindness leaves ripples throughout life is a lesson I'll carry forever," Clara replied, returning the warmth in his eyes. "And to think it all started with those cookies." Their laughter echoed amidst the festivities, weaving effortlessly through sweet stories. As people critiqued the intricate designs and beautiful fabrics, a group of visitors gave excited snippets about how they could see themselves using these quilts in their homes. A couple approached them, excited by the unique patterns made entirely of recycled fabrics. They saw potential that aligned with their desire for sustainable living. It was then Clara noticed someone in the crowd, a woman in a simple yet elegant outfit who seemed enthralled by one particular quilt's colors and textures. Mr. Thompson caught her gaze and nudged Clara gently. "That's Miranda, the owner of the local cafe. I told her how Eleanor's quilts always warmed our home, and I believe she's interested in a collaborative cafe project." Clara's heart raced at the thought of the opportunity. Maybe she wants to display them at her cafe during the winter. "Exactly. Perhaps it can lead to a broader outreach than we'd thought possible," Mr. Thompson responded, his eyes gleaming with excitement. The afternoon shifted into an array of colors, beautiful conversations, and laughter. But it wasn't until the moment came to begin sharing stories of Eleanor's amazing life that Clara truly felt a profound shift in the air. A few friends shared heartwarming memories, gradually drawing everyone into a space of storytelling, a tradition that Eleanor had cherished dearly. As Clara listened, she felt gratitude grip her, reminding her of her journey. She had arrived in this town as a weary nurse in desperate times, yet here she found warmth, family, and an unwavering sense of community. After the stories, Clara seized the chance to share her own reflection. Eleanor used her time to weave kindness into each quilt she began, the attendees listening intently. Those of us who've shared her history know this to be true. Eleanor's spirit has reminded me that kindness isn't limited to time or wealth. It courses through our words and actions, binding us to one another and restoring hope when the weight of the world bears down upon us. The applause rose and fell like the rhythm of a gentle heartbeat, filling Clara's heart up to the brim. It confirmed for her and for Mr. Thompson that their acts of kindness had not only raised his spirit, but had sparked a flame that others would carry forward. Before long, the quilt display began to attract interest, with people discussing purchases, each conversation remaining laced with Eleanor's legacy. Clara noticed Mr. Thompson's demeanor shift as his eyes roamed around the room, lit up by the recognition his beloved wife was finally receiving. As the day closed, the shop rang with laughter and the clinking of chains and small bills as quilts changed hands and families made plans to commission new ones. Clara's heart soared as she noticed Mr. Thompson receive warm embraces and heartfelt thanks from the community members whose lives Eleanor had touched during her own. "Clara, I owe you everything," he said sincerely, his voice filled with gratitude as he caught her eye in the middle of welcoming a new customer. "Through your kindness and commitment, we've managed to create something beautiful amid loss. You've given me new purpose." Before Clara could respond, Miranda approached the two with a smile. "I'd like to propose a monthly showcase of these quilts at my cafe. My customers would love to see them, and I think this could help develop a beautiful partnership." Mr. Thompson's eyes widened in disbelief, while Clara's heart soared. "That's wonderful, Miranda. Together we could keep Eleanor's spirit alive while engaging the community." Miranda continued, "I would also love to honor both of you by hosting a special event to introduce and celebrate Eleanor's legacy. Imagine delicious pastries adorned with quilt-inspired designs while offering storytelling sessions. I think it could be a heartwarming experience." As a sense of wonder and gratitude enveloped them, Clara realized that the tiny act of kindness, a plate of cookies, shared between friends during vulnerable moments, had sprouted not only emotional connections but substantial opportunities to transform lives. Weeks turned into months following the showcase, and as Clara continued her shifts at the hospital, the new partnership blossomed. Miranda's cafe became a lively hub, filled with laughter, chatter, and warmth, and they often highlighted Eleanor's quilts while Clara took pride in nurturing them through each story shared. Both Mr. Thompson and Clara flourished, gaining recognition throughout the community. With the financial boost from the quilt sales and cafe partnership, Mr. Thompson found himself reinvigorated, his health improving with the infusion of purpose energizing his days. Clara blossomed, too. The commission from the cafe allowed her to save more for her daughter's future and even contribute towards her own pursuit of furthering her education in nursing. New doors opened for her, grants became available as her reputation for kindness and diligence grew. One sunny afternoon, after a particularly satisfying day at the cafe, Clara returned home to find Lucy strewn across the floor, poring over a stack of brightly colored papers. "What are you up to, my little artist?" Clara asked with a smile. "Mommy, I'm designing quilts." "Look," Lucy beamed, holding up a bright, sparkly sketch of a quilt inspired by the patterns they'd seen at Mr. Thompson's showcase. "Oh, sweetheart, you've got such a great imagination," Clara encouraged, her heart swelling with love. "Those are beautiful. Would you like to show Mr. Thompson?" "Yes. I think he would love it." "Just like Eleanor," Lucy replied excitedly. Clara marveled at how the ripples of kindness had transformed not just her life but also the lives of those she loved. After all, kindness was not only an act, it was a legacy they would carry forward for generations. As Clara tucked Lucy into bed that night, her heart was brimming with gratitude for the connections they had forged. She reflected on the lesson etched so deeply in her day to never underestimate the power of a simple act of kindness and the potential it carries to transform lives far beyond what is visible. Lying in bed later, Clara closed her eyes, overwhelmed with hope for the future. Underneath the canopy of stars peeking through her window, she felt certain that every moment of kindness would continue to reverberate through the lives of those they touched. And as she drifted off to sleep, a hopeful smile played across her lips, knowing that she, Lucy, and Mr. Thompson would forever be intertwined in a tapestry woven by love, resilience, and compassion, each thread illustrating how the heart, guided by kindness, could create an indelible impact on the world.